sense. Listen on the app.
And watch it live on your smart TV.
The nation's favourite Christmas common sense station. Talk Radio.
And there's a lovely bit of bass. I don't think that is Mo Foster. Mo Foster goes into the hills to celebrate his Christmas. And you're with Jonny Gould here on Talk Radio. It's a pleasure to be with you on the show today. And now let's go to the United States to join White House correspondent at Real Political News. Let's welcome Professor John Christopher Bua. How are you, sir?
I'm happy to see you, John. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a lovely interview.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. It's a good start if you're doing like a White House prayer like that. It feels like it.
Yes.
Now, Kamala Harris to be Biden's running mate if he runs for re-election. It's an unusual situation, isn't it, when the incumbent wouldn't pick the existing vice president. It's normally the winning ticket of the first time round that then inherits it. Like, for example, Trump and Pence was the same, right?
Indeed. I mean, there's a history of it. We can go all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, and not everybody was enamored with their VP, but they did help them. I mean, JFK had Lyndon Johnson help him win the South and Texas, which was a big state. Now, Kamala Harris is a formidable individual. She's back home in California with her husband, where Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden just came from the Children's Hospital here in Washington, where they read the night before Christmas, I believe it was, to a bunch of young children who were in hospital. Now, the question is, will he choose her? He chose her before. She helped him. In politics, you know this, Johnny. A second is forever. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if Joe Biden is going to run. We think he is. And when they challenge him and saying things like, well, Donald Trump is going to run again, and they go, oh, really? And let me roll up my sleeves. I can't wait for that. He'd love to battle with Joe again. We'll see. It's a long time. It's a long way to Tipperary, as we say in our World War I lexicon.
Indeed. And of course, the longer Joe Biden's term goes on, the more likely it is that Kamala Harris might be sworn in as president. I don't wish to be too morbid about this, but Joe is also our oldest president, older indeed than Ronald Reagan.
Well, Ronald Reagan was quite an interesting guy. As a professor, I teach about all the different presidents, and I was never enamored with Ronald Reagan. We all know that I'm a Democrat. I worked for Bill Clinton. But the further I get away from Reagan and listen to his humor, the more I really appreciate what an interesting guy he was. He certainly had a certain amount of panache and skill, and he was an actor. I don't know. I think Joe is healthy. I think I've known him for over 20 years, and I think he'll stick with it.
Reagan is an unusual president because his legacy seems to get stronger and stronger. I mean, they made a fool of him for his amnesia at the time, that he was a dumb actor, and there was that country music song, I Still Can't Believe Ronald Reagan's President, and Elvis Costello mentioned how we've already got one spaceman in the White House, what do we want another one there for? People hated Reagan at the time, but over the last sort of 25, 30 years, I think he was an immensely lucky president, alongside the sort of Thatcher of the early 80s, heading towards the fall of the Berlin Wall. This was a glorious time for the United States, and I think people look back with rose-colored spectacles.
He said that famous line in Berlin. He said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And he showed strength. And, we have another interesting situation with the former Soviet, Lieutenant Colonel Vladimir Putin, who is pressing the envelope there in Ukraine. And he's certainly someone to be watched, certainly someone to give you reflux in the middle of the evening, just thinking about what he's going to do. And Biden's going to have to deal with that. He's going to also have to deal with the leader of China as he threatens our allies, Taiwan. So there's a lot going on. And, needless to say, the biggest question now is the new variant, Omicron. And I know you have that issue as well. And how do we travel? I was singing the old Perry Como song, "There's no place like home for the holidays." Stay home, get off. I know you like music. Get off the train, get off the plane, stay with Granny, have a snowball fight with the kids. Or it's like Dylan Thomas said, it snowed, and snowball the cats if you have to. But stay home and stay safe.
Well, we know that COVID certainly affected the outcome of the presidential election at the end of last year. How is COVID affecting Christmas in the United States this year, both from, as you say, a personal point of view, but also, I think, from a midterm point of view, with Biden's popularity, with the prospect that, it will be a repeat of the presidential election of last year, where Trump comes back to take on Kamala and Biden?
Well, I don't think Trump's coming back.
You don't think
anywhere.
so?
He's got more indictments and suits and pressures from the courts, including New York State, going on.
But he still owns owns is the wrong word, but he's still in control of the Republican Party, isn't he? I know you're a Democrat. You don't like him, but let's take your Democrat hat off here. He is going to defeat the Republicans around him, isn't he?
Well, he's scared half of them to death. And the other half, who I call his disciples, they worship him. They consider him a deity. They feel one with him. And he's really conned them. And he's getting people. Now, the real problem with COVID is that there are healthcare workers being spat upon by people who are getting intubated and still don't believe that they should be vaccinated. And this is preposterous, and it's criminal. And Donald Trump put that bee in their bonnet, and he is responsible for that. And we have over 800,000 Americans dead from this virus.
One of the reasons why Joe Biden is said to have won the election is that he was a steady hand.
Yes.
And that he would bring a stability to the consensus of the United States. Is that happening in reality?
In many ways, indeed, it does. It is. He's done his vaccines. He's got out in front on that. He has put through some legislation which gives individuals a leg up, shall we say. He's worked on an infrastructure deal. He's done many, many things, and he's shown some strength, and he's getting good support. But, people expected him to come in like St. George on a white horse and slay the dragon. But the dragon, unlike in your history, the dragon is just been wounded. And that's a fact. So we'll have to see if Joe Biden wants to stand up against him. He is speaking out against him. And the other day, actually, Trump agreed that people should get vaxxed and should get boosted. So Biden picked up on that and said, see, what did I tell you? So we're trying to find some sort of Christmas cheer here. I mean, there's plenty we can have with a nice pint or two, or whiskey, or a good scotch, or whatever you have. Irish whiskey, I prefer. But
Me too.
All of that stuff. But we need to come together as a country. We need to solve this problem, because there may be another variant, Johnny, and we have to be able to deal with that and listen to our scientists and have respect for our healthcare workers who are really on the front line every day, as you know, as they are in the UK as well.
Indeed. Now, there's a lot of domestic discussion there, and obviously that is where Joe Biden wants to keep the conversation boiling up. COVID will affect the next election in the United States. It will affect the results of the midterm. And his response to COVID will obviously continue, as Omicron is proving to be very, very key. But what about Afghanistan? He's cost America's reputation around the world. What can Joe Biden do to assuage the critics both in the United States and around the world for that really awful withdrawal from Afghanistan?
Well, I'm not going to defend the withdrawal, but I will say this. No. If you remember, it was Donald Trump who promised that withdrawal months before Joe Biden did. And Donald Trump promised that that a few criminals in Pakistan would be let out of prison and they could run the place. Now, did Biden fall for it? I don't know. Biden cares about the troops. Maybe he figured enough is enough. I don't know. But Afghanistan could be, in a sense, an Achilles heel for him. But let's see how he does on the bigger picture. And I think Vladimir Putin is the one to keep your eyes on. And I think Biden's going to have to go head to head with him.
Indeed. Any form of weakness seen against Putin will be punished. John Christopher Boer, White House correspondent at Real Political News, I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Christmas.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Talk Radio. What a first hour this has been on the show. I hope you're enjoying your Christmas Eve on Talk Radio. I'm certainly doing so. And there's plenty more to come on the show as well. I hope you can join me. My name is Jonny Gould. This is Talk Radio. We've got more coming up after the news at the top of the hour.
Talk Radio. A pig in a blanket of common sense.
Listen on the app.
And watch it live on your smart TV.
It's a common sense Christmas on Talk Radio.